everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Avon Van Hassel. I'm a self-published author, and I'm here every Wednesday to give you tips and tricks on things to try in your writing. Now today we're coming to the end of Camp NaNoWriMo, April 2021 edition. We're going into week 4, and then there are going to be a couple of days after. So we have like the last 9 days, I think. So you should be just about there. You should be able to smell the finish line. It's so close. And if you're anything like me, you're getting pretty close to the bottom of the barrel in terms of ideas. It could be that you're getting to the end of your outline and you're finding yourself a couple thousand words short. It could be that you're finding yourself stumped on where to go next. It could be that you got behind earlier in the month and you're having trouble catching up and you're kind of wondering if you have enough material to last to the end of 50,000 words, assuming you're doing 15,000 words. So I have a couple of suggestions and ideas for things to do to make up that last few thousand. In the first week of Camp NaNo, I talked about some ideas for writing faster or getting more writing in. Last week, I talked about how to stay on track or how to get back on track if you've lost momentum. And this week is just how to just get through. So, just a couple of ideas to generate more words. My first tip is get angry. Graphics. Look who's getting better at this. It's me. I'm getting better at this. Not much better, but baby steps. We're figuring it out. Now, this is going to sound weird, but it really works for me. I'm one of those people that can rant for hours. You give me a subject and let me go, and I can go for hours. One of the first nanos I ever did took place during the Renaissance, and I was struggling to make up some words, and my mom had an idea about why don't you rant about all the things that Renaissance fairs get wrong. Now, as a disclaimer, I know Renaissance fairs are not intended to be 100% historically accurate. I know. But I'm a history buff. My training is in archaeology. And at one point in my life, the Renaissance was my life. Like, I'm still a big Shakespeare fan. Elizabeth I is still one of my big history crushes. But there was a time in my life when the Elizabethans were it. And I love a Renaissance fair. I really do. It's where my soul is the happiest. But there are things that drive me crazy. Gandalf does not belong at Ren Fair. You can make an argument for Spock, but there is no reason Gandalf needs to be there. So she basically just said, just write your version of Ren Fair. Or rant about what you hate about Ren Fair. And I must have gotten 7,000 words that day. So if you're like me and you have beef and you can just rant forever, that's a way to go. And don't be ashamed. Remember, you can always cut it out later. You can always pare it down later. You can always rephrase. You can always 1,000 things later. Okay? So that's one. Speaking of Gandalf, my second suggestion is do as Tolkien does. Pick something minuscule and describe it in as much detail as you possibly can. Just, a leaf on a tree is the classic example, right? The plot did not take off for 200 pages. Just remember that. And it's a classic. So, waffle like the wind. Waffle like your life depends on it. Go into as much detail as you possibly can, even if it feels like it doesn't matter. My third suggestion is to rewrite old scenes. If you have a scene that you wrote that you don't love it, don't cut it. Rewrite it. Honestly, rewrite the same scene over again and keep both versions. Because remember, Nano is about quantity over quality. You can always edit later. Nobody's going to read this. Nobody cares that you wrote the same scene twice. Now, I'm not saying cheat. I'm not saying copy and paste the whole thing 100 times until you get to 50,000. That takes the soul out of it. It makes the whole exercise pointless. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of... Because if you rewrite a bad scene, you still end up with a scene that's workable. And there might be something in the original scene that you can put later in the story, or that you can keep and you can mush the two together. Like, I'm not saying copy and paste. No. I'm saying rewrite it, right? Rewrite it as many times as you want until you get it right. It's different. Cassie. My fourth piece of advice is, how am I going to phrase this? I'm going to just call it what it is. Shameless fan fiction. Now, this is presuming that you're writing original work and it isn't already fan fiction. I have scenes in my stories that are never going to see the light of day. I have ideas in my head that will never be in a book for whatever reason. They don't fit the characters. I can't find a place for them. They're not important. I have so much backstory that's never going to find a place in an actual book. I have a lot of scenes that were in actual books that had to get cut. So, it cuts both ways. If you have an idea, it doesn't fit in this story, but it has to do with your characters still, and it fits the wider world, write it anyway. Like, not everything you write has to be destined for the printing house. Like, you can just have a play with it. Just in the middle of your scene, when you're bored, just write something else. No shame in that. Or you can start working on another project in the middle of the scene. If you've finished your story, but you're still going 50,000 words, and you've got another story that you need to work on, this is your time. This is the writing time. It doesn't have, in Camp NaNo, I should specify, because this is technically against the rules for November Nano. But in Camp NaNo, anything goes. So, I mentioned stream of consciousness, I think last week in the video about how to get unstuck. That's an option. Also, just in the same way it was then, you can say things like, I don't know what to do with this scene. I'm pretty much finished with this book and I still have 15,000 more words to find somehow, and then just talk yourself out of it. You can also do the empty chair interview style, just have a little chitty chat with your characters. That's another thing that you can just leave in there, because that information might not be unusable. Just because it's not canon, just because it's not prose, doesn't mean that the information you gleaned can't end up in a story somewhere at some point. Maybe take a minute to add some world building flavor. Maybe your characters are in a restaurant and you want to spend some time describing what the restaurant looks like. Maybe take a break and try to decide on the history of the restaurant or the people who work there. Again, this is more information. This all goes in the soup. This is more information that you've created about your world that can at some point come out in other stories. I guess what I'm trying to say is try to find as many avenues as you can to flesh and expand wherever you can, just kind of like heap on more detail and more backstory and more development. It's a great way to eat up words, especially when your story, when the plot is more or less finished before the end of the 50,000. And then I find a lot of times, for me anyway, I'll hit a pocket and I'll be like, oh, that's really good, and that actually should be included in the story somewhere. And then that's what I'll do in May, is go find a place to fit all of my little stuff in there. You can also have, if your story is part of a series, or if it's a spin-off of something, you can do a lot of backstory explaining, because you have to assume that some of your readers, if this ever goes to print, some of your readers will be starting with this story, and so you have to kind of catch them up on what happened. It's called a recap. That's what it is. It's not backstory, it's recap. Hi, baby. So that's still valuable. I had a story one time where I literally just wrote a recipe in the middle of the text because I thought it would be a fun recipe to go back and try later. It was an idea that I had on the fly for this dish, and then I thought, I should try that. I should actually cook that. And I wrote a recipe in the middle of the story, and then I did have to edit it out later, but, it helped in the moment. What are you doing? You want to come see the people? No. This is Cassie. She wants to say hi to you guys. She won't look at the camera though because she's shy. Poor baby. Okay. Go. Cat hair. What? You're hairy. Yeah, so those are my best ideas is get mad, waffle like your life depends on it, and then find all the little nooks and crannies that you can use to come up with more material that might come up in stories later, and just really take advantage of this time, of these events, to really just let your mind explore your world and try to bring together as much detail as you can, because it'll really come in handy later if you already have all of this information down before the editing starts. Ideally, you should have a lot of this information before the writing starts, but a lot of people don't really utilize the planning month to its full potential, and I think you have to have a couple of events under your belt before you realize what exactly needs to be done during the planning month. So, and then of course you get to a point where if your series is long enough, you don't really need to, because you have previous books that kind of count as your planning and your backstory and your world building and all that. So anyway, I hope these tips helped you a little bit. I hope they gave you some ideas. I hope they gave you a jumping off point, and I hope you've enjoyed Nano if you've done it, and I hope you'll join me again in July. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in July. I'll probably be working on shorts. That's probably what I'll end up doing, is working on novellas, because I'm probably going to need a break from this book, because I'm probably going to be editing in May and June. So exciting. So hit that goal. Just keep working at it. If this helped you at all, if previous videos have helped you at all, be sure to give the video a like and comment. And if you know anybody who you think that these tips and tricks will be beneficial for, do share. And if you'd like to see more from me, subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when I post more. It usually is Wednesdays at 6. I do have more plans for other types of things coming in the future. I just have to get more shit together. You know how it is. And yeah, I've got exciting stuff coming. Oh, I have my second shot on Friday, and I'm so excited because I might actually survive this thing. Imagine. There was something else I wanted to tell you guys. Oh, right. Saturday at 8, I have been hosting Write With Me events. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it in May and June. I'm going to have to wait and see if people are liking those things, and if they are, then I'll keep it up, and if not, then I might just, have that hour to myself. But do let me know if it's been helpful at all, or if you think it will be helpful, if it's something that you think you'll be interested in joining me for. And, yeah. I'll see you next week for the last 2 days of Nano. We're getting so close, you guys. So close. Alrighty. I'll see you. Bye-bye.